In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about whether or not the idea of under-promising and over-delivering is good for business. So let's go. Okay, here we are again. Kids, all those out on the interwebs, and today we're going to talk a little bit about business. So there's a lot of ways to do business, and everybody sort of finds their groove, their comfort zone in terms of how they approach potential clients, how they deal with potential clients, and then if there's a conversion and they become a client, how that relationship continues. But for me, and I've said this many times in the past, for me, the idea of a well thought out, well written proposal and budget really is essential for the way that I do business. It becomes essentially the blueprint of what a project is. And while there are red flags when you're dealing with a new prospective client and that type of stuff, if things are grooving along and you submit a proposal that is well thought out and you've gone back and forth with that potential or existing client, then it should serve as the base for how you're going to proceed with a project. Again, sort of your blueprint. Now, how you write that proposal and what you put into it is really up to you, but it should be derived from an understanding of who the company is that you're going to be working with, what their product and or service is that you're going to be creating content in and around, an understanding of who their existing or potential audience is supposed to be, so that you can work with them to create the most effective content that you can. It shouldn't be your job to be the marketing company, to be the brand expert for that company, because you're not part of the company. But it is your job to understand what they're trying to do, who their audience or audiences are, and to work with them to create the most effective content that you can. Now, for me personally, the proposal and the budget are not only the blueprint for a project, it's my opportunity to present to the client the idea behind the project. And then when that's submitted, if there's anything, if it's well written and it's based on the back and forth, if there's anything that's not what they want, it gives them the perfect opportunity to bring that up. You do a revision, you submit that, you get to a place where the project makes sense for everybody, and then you proceed as long as everybody's A-okay. Now, this is a long way of me getting to the conversation of whether or not it makes sense to underpromise and overdeliver. And it's a hard question to answer because it's how you divine. Maybe it should be divine. How you define underpromise, because my proposals are very specific in terms of what we're creating, and they usually break down a certain number of revisions for post-production, so on and so forth. But what I'll say is that while the proposal is the blueprint for the project, and there's very specific, not gray, but black and white in terms of what we're going to produce and deliver, there's always, for my projects, what I'll call a creative buffer, right? So you try to figure out who this client is. And if you have a longer term relationship and they're already a client, you've hopefully figured that out. But you have to figure out how much hand holding there's going to need to be, how much interaction is going to occur. Usually it's better if there's a lot of interaction throughout a project. How hands off or hands on they're going to be in terms of what you're doing. And you try to, based on experience and instincts and things like that, outline a project, but give it some room so that you can, quote unquote, over deliver, right? You never want to give, in my opinion, a client just what you promised. I think that the over-delivering part of it is that you care. It's that you are not just creating a 3 to 5 minute video, but that you're working with the client to give them more than they expected. And I think for me, that's the concept of under-promising and over-delivering, is that you want to be realistic in your blueprint for what the project is, but your intention going into it as the creator of the content, the storyteller, is that you're going to give them more than they might have expected. And part of that is just what you do in production and the content that you're capturing, and then putting that into a package and delivering something that is hopefully more than they expected. Is it going to happen on every project? No, it's not. But I think that the overall concept, and it will be different for everybody, but the overall concept of under-promising and over-delivering can be good for business. It's just not under-promising in a way like, well, don't expect too much. That's not what I mean by under-promising. It is you're stating exactly what it is that you're going to create, but then when you put yourself into that project and you start to work with that client and you start to create that content, you're over-delivering compared to what's on the piece of paper, right? You're still delivering what you're promising, but you're doing it at a different level. And to me, that is good business, right? That is a good way to approach things. If you overpromise and you underdeliver, wow, that's probably the last job you're doing for that client. I think you get the idea. There you go. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.